Hi, this is Rafa. I'd like to give you all a really big welcome back to Heavy Rain. I'm so excited about playing this for the first time, and I'm so excited about sharing it with you if you're watching this. I have no idea who you are yet. I really have barely any videos so far on my YouTube channel, and I'm hoping that maybe I'll get some encouragement to continue after uploading this. Maybe I'll get some comments, maybe a couple new people will subscribe. I'm not expecting fame and fortune and success overnight. I'm not really expecting fortune ever because I know it's like almost impossible to make money off of doing this, but it's a labor of love, and gaming is a labor of love, isn't it? I mean, I love gaming so much, it's so much a part of me, and it's so much a part of the way I grew up and how I survived my childhood, and how I continue to get through bad days even today. So if you feel the same way I do about gaming, then please leave a comment. I'm actually putting off jumping back into the game just for a little bit because I just want to talk a little bit first about my reaction to the beginning parts of the game. I've given a little bit of thought to the mystery of the origami killer. When I first started this game, I literally knew nothing about what it was about, and now that the plot has established itself, I had some time last night to think about it. And I actually had a really strange dream. I don't think it had a lot to do with the game, but I think that it was inspired by the stimulation that this game gave my brain. But instead of talking about my dream, I'd like to talk about the origami killer. So we have one strong suspect so far, and that suspect is named Gordy Kramer, and he's a rich guy who likes to party and he likes to watch cartoons, and he has kind of a really like sartorial, mocking personality, and kind of juvenile personality. The game is really portraying him as a character who is like a spoiled rich kid and has never had to grow up and face the challenges of reality that most people his age would have needed to face because his father has provided him with, you know, everything that he's ever needed. And his father is president of a construction company, I believe, based on the in-game dialogue. And yeah, there's this scene where Gordy Kramer actually confesses to be the origami killer, and it's really creepy because the camera angle changes when he starts his speech, and you can see the cartoons he's watching in the background, and like this really menacing look comes over his face. So a confession certainly makes him a prime suspect, and another reason he's a prime suspect is that we know that the origami killer is essentially sending the fathers of victims out on a kind of scavenger hunt to find clues that will lead to the possibility of rescuing their sons before their sons become dead. I believe that the origami killer is leaving the sons someplace where water is going to naturally accumulate from the rain until it drowns them, like during the rainy season. And hypothetically, if a rescue effort could be launched based on knowledge of the place where the boy was being held, then they could rescue the boy while the boy is still alive. And then if the boy dies, the origami killer seems to be moving the body to a different location and placing an orchid on the boy's chest and an origami figure in the boy's hand. So that's the origami killer's MO. And Gordy Kramer seems to be a suspect because he has the money to be able to stage these extravagant scavenger hunts. We know that whoever the origami killer is actually will like purchase a car and leave it somewhere is one of the trials, and know that there's a high possibility the car is going to be destroyed and he's going to have to write it off. So I have no idea how expensive these other trials are going to be to stage, but I have some idea where I am in the story because Ethan, the father of the most recent victim of the origami killer, Sean Mars, has undertaken one trial, and at the part of the story I'm at, he's just about to go to the second trial. He received a box full of 5 origami figures and a cell phone and a gun. And the cell phone has like some flashcards that cause text to appear on the screen, which are like messages from the origami killer to himself. So it looks like he's going to have 5 trials total, and he's on trial 2 of 5 now. So hopefully this is a good long story. It's felt pretty long so far, but It's been totally fun so far. And I am also so sorry that I can't get my video capture to work, because you deserve to see these beautiful graphics. And I don't know how beautiful the graphics are going to seem on camera, but they are so beautiful. You've probably played this game before if you're watching this, but if you haven't played this game before, oh my god, the graphics are beautiful. I can't even express how beautiful they are. And another thing that I was thinking about the Origami Killer last night when I was sleeping on it is that Scott Shelby's actions are really suspicious, and I'm actually including Scott Shelby himself as a suspect to be the Origami Killer, because we know from the scenes where he interviews the parents of the victims that he's aware of the Origami Killer's MO, and he's actually recovered some of the items that the Origami Killer has been distributing to the parents of the victims. He's recovered one of the shoeboxes, which presumably contains like a gun and a cell phone and 5 origami figures. And from another parent, he recovered just the cell phone containing the messages from the Origami Killer to the parent. So I feel like Scott Shelby should actually know whether or not any given suspect is likely to be the Origami Killer. And Lauren burst into his office. Lauren is the mother of one of the victims of the killer, and she insisted on helping him in his investigation because she now really wants to avenge her son's death. And it doesn't appear that Scott has actually told her about any of the evidence that he has. Maybe he's just blowing her off, and maybe he doesn't really want her to help, so he's trying to like send her along like down dead-end roads and have her pursue false leads until he convinces her that the investigation is futile and then he's going to resume the investigation on his own. That's one explanation, but the other explanation is that he's not telling Lauren about all of the clues he's received because he doesn't want the Origami Killer to get caught, because he either is the Origami Killer or he's helping cover up for the Origami Killer. Because he says that he was hired by the parents of the victims, but he's also interviewing, I think he says he was hired by the families of the victims, but anyway, he's interviewing the parents of the victims, and it doesn't seem like any of the parents of the victims know him. So if he was hired by families of the victims as a private investigator, then you have to wonder exactly which family members are these and of which victims, because nobody who he's spoken to so far appears to know who he is. So that could actually just be like a front that he's putting on in order to cover up the real truth. So those are 2 suspects so far. There's Gordy Kramer, who has the money in order to pull it off, but it's questionable whether he has the motive, because he seems to have like very little personal connection to the symbolism of either the orchid or the origami figure, and he doesn't seem to be, he seems to be a little bit deranged, but he doesn't seem to be like deeply traumatized the way that the serial killer's pathology suggests that he probably is. And the investigation from Officer Jaden of the FBI is also shedding more light into the pathology of the Origami Killer, because Officer Jaden is I guess Special Agent Jaden is his title. He's actually like a profiling expert from the FBI, so if anyone would know what the Origami Killer's personal traits are just by the clues he's left, it would be him. But he doesn't seem to have access to the same clues that Scott Shelby does. So maybe we're just looking at like the investigation from like 2 different like limited angles, and maybe Scott and Norman are going to meet up at some point and exchange information, and then they're going to figure it out together. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, what I'm saying is that the scenes involving Special Agent Jaden seem to be like corroborating my theory about the pathology of the Origami Killer as someone who has a personal stake in the situation involving these kids, or has personally gone through something in his own life that involves like the endangerment of a young boy. So yeah, I was saying that I don't think that Gordy Kramer has that type of background. So that's one of the reasons that maybe one of the cons to the theory that he's a suspect. Our second suspect is Scott Shelby. One of the pros to that theory is he's acting very suspiciously, and he seems to like not be sharing all of his evidence with Lauren, who is he claims is his teammate. And he also has this strange relationship with the parents of the victims, which sounds illogical and impossible. And one of the cons to the theory that Scott Shelby is the origami killer is he seems to be a good guy. He seems to be genuinely concerned about like saving people. He saves one of the moms of one of the recent victims from suicide, and he saves Lauren from being beaten up, and he also saves Hassan, who's the father of another one of the victims, from possibly being killed by like a gunman who bursts into his store and is trying to stick up the store. So he's saving people left and right. Why would if he's so, you know, careless about human life that he doesn't mind sacrificing completely innocent boys, why would he be like saving everyone he encounters? And also one of the cons to the theory that Scott might be the killer is he doesn't seem to have a lot of money. He seems to live in like a rundown apartment, and he seems to be like an ex-cop, and I get the impression that he didn't retire from the force because he's not that old. He was probably like dismissed or discharged under like, you know, some kind of suspicious circumstances or something. I'm getting that type of vibe from Scott. Maybe it's just because I'm a big Breaking Bad fan, and I really like, you know, the character of Mike, played by Jonathan Banks in that show. So I might be reading some of my knowledge of Breaking Bad into Heavy Rain. But yeah, another one of the reasons Scott might not be the killer is because he does not seem to have the money and the resources and the free time to, well, maybe he has the free time because he's self-employed now as a detective, but I don't know how he just has the wherewithal to stage all of this, you know, elaborate stuff for the parents to go through. And our third suspect is Ethan Mars himself, and the reasons why Ethan is suspicious. Ethan, of course, is the father of Sean Mars, the most recent victim. The reasons why he's suspicious is because sometimes he blacks out and he doesn't remember what happened. And the most recent time that he blacked out was the day that Sean, his son, disappeared. So it is possible that Ethan could have blacked out, gone into this state of dissociation, or have like a second identity who he can't remember when his main identity takes over, and his alter ego or whatever could have actually kidnapped his own son and put him into, you know, captivity somewhere. And then when he comes to as himself, he could actually be trying to figure out what his evil side did with his son so he can save his son from himself. That would make it kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde type of story, if that were the case. And I'm really hoping that's not the case, because that's kind of like, you know, even more of a cliche than like Gordy Kramer, you know, the spoiled little rich kid who is dissociated from reality and decides to like start killing. There's a lot of possible explanations, and all of the explanations for the identity of the origami killer and the motive behind the origami killer that we've seen so far are kind of cliche, but Ethan's would be the most cliche, and I just love Ethan, and his scenes are so dramatic. And speaking of Ethan's scenes being dramatic, I'm going to continue this game, and now we are going to jump right back into Ethan as he undergoes this second trial. And this is especially exciting because we know from Scott Shelby's investigation that 8 boys, well, we know from Jaden's investigation that 8 boys have been killed already. And we know from Shelby's investigation that at least 2 of the boys have had fathers who disappeared shortly after the boys disappeared. And the fathers were never heard from again. So we know that some of the fathers are actually going out on this quest to save their sons, and either being killed or being kidnapped by the origami killer or failing the test in some way, which causes them to disappear completely. So we know that Ethan is in serious danger of dying or having something really bad happen to him, like right here in this scene. And this is where we're jumping back in.